We are about to start. I would like to thank you all for being here today. The idea is to create a perfect cloud. I will now explain what do we mean by perfect. Well, I'm going to introduce who we are. I don't know if you know SecAdmin. It's a cybersecurity conference held in Seville in the south of Spain, and we are known because the finalist of the CTF that is now at a competition thanks to CyberCamp. And what do we do? I will just introduce ourselves. This is our Twitter, SecAdmin, the Y followed by a 1. What I said, this is the winner, and this is the captain. What is all about? The weapon has a parallelism with the world of Hawkins, ninjas, and samurai, and it symbolizes the effort, philosophy, and ethics, morale, and is the most important award for the CTF. This is this time it was quite difficult. He could open 2 locks in 58 seconds. It requires abilities not only in using reversing cryptography, but also physical. He had very strong hands and could open it. And the winner is with us today in the room to our left. You can follow us. This is our tweet, as I said. This is what we do. Some of us might know us. This is one of the creators of SQL Map that you can see now in the screen. We also organize a contest. Who is the sexiest? Miroslav was the winner, is also with us. And LinkedIn profiles are very rigid, so I wanted to give some humor. We have fun, we enjoy, and above all, we share knowledge. This is the main objective. This is a video of the katana or sword. This is the bomb that we had to deactivate. It had 3 locks. Once you do a reversing, you got the number of a numeric lock, and once you opened it, you could unlock the following 2 locks to deactivate the bomb. So, as I said, we come from Seville. Our name is SecAdmin. And this is me. I am a forensic computing expert. I work as cybersecurity director at Dolbeck for more than 2 years. I love technology. I love social engineering. I've been working in this field for years, and I always define social engineering as the glue that can link many different techniques. You can be good in different techniques, but if you do not glue them with social engineering when making an intrusion, there's nothing we can do. So I love social engineering. I like observing people, learning from people. I am responsible for SecAdmin, and I am from Uruguay, and we organize in that country Charuacon, and I carry out cybersecurity audits. I'm a consultant in cybersecurity. Let us move now to the topic of my presentation, which is a perfect cloud. There's a website, the name is Hold24, I don't know if you know it. It has some tutorials for Linux, and you see all the distributions. They teach us how to do certain things. They have a section that is entitled The Perfect Setup or The Perfect Server. They give us information or tips to create a perfect server. That's why I selected the title of this talk as The Perfect Cloud. I will show you some steps to make our own cloud. Today we are in the world of sharing, in a world where technology is in the cloud, so we can all share the information, and let us see how can we do it. So basically I will speak about the existing services, market choice, options to create our own cloud, deployment and implementation of this cloud. We will do it live, so I will be changing the screens quite often. I will speak about my cloud, what are the settings, what are the possibilities given by our own cloud versus what exists in the market. I would ask you to work with this cloud to share photographs, load videos, change information. We will see how we can keep the information in the cloud, how can we monitor the performance, how do we develop security, how can we strengthen the cloud in relation to security. If we're going to host our data there, those information have to be secure, whether in the cloud or in the existing infrastructure. We're going to speak about hardening measures and then some conclusions. And I would also like to interact with you and have your feedback about the cloud. Okay, whenever we speak about the cloud, what are we talking about? Basically, virtual hard disk that have a great large capacity. We will access always via internet. In the past it was crazy, but today with fiber we have a huge speed, and it's very possible to download a 20-30 megabytes file great speed. Remember when we were connected to a modem, we could see sequence by sequence, and sometimes there were mistakes and everything was in gray. This is no longer the case. We can see photographs in real time. We can see all contents of the website. We can download films, or we can view films online as in Netflix, HBO, and in similar platforms, and we can listen to music, everything online. What is the purpose of the cloud? Basically, is a place in an interconnected world to keep photographs, videos, music, and all sort of files that we might need to access, or that give us the possibility to access anytime. Many of you have been working at home, go to work and look in the USB for something that you had saved and is not there, is at your home's desktop. If we had a place with a synchronization to the cloud and I can access the cloud and download it, I forget about USB because I always carry the information with me. Mobility is the main advantage. We can free memory of our devices. We will see that this is relative, but we can upload the photographs, put them in a different folder that is not synchronized, and you can do it without using our tablet or cell phone's memory capacity. And what we always looked with the network, centralize the information. I know that all my information is in this cloud, and I don't have to be looking for information in different places. This is the aim when having our own cloud. Obviously, the market has realized about these needs and offers different possibilities. If you don't know the icons, we have Dropbox, Google Drive, OneCloud, iCloud, Box, Mega, and Amazon Cloud Drive. This is just a sample of all possibilities for storing. You have to pay for them because it's something new. What they do is they let us try the system. Google Drive give us 15 gigabytes. We see the advantages, but with time, after several months or years, if we upload 4 or 5 OS images, or if we keep large documents, then the space is filled. And we have become used to this. So what do? We end up buying hosting, which is the business of all of this. All of them do it. iTunes, for iOS, you have 5 gigabytes, and when they are full, it offers a backup in the cloud. When everything is full, we rather pay. It's not very much money what you pay on a monthly basis, and enlarge your capacity. Now we're great generators of multimedia contents, videos, photographs. When we go on a trip, you don't do just 24 photographs. You might do 200 or 300. So it's normal to start using great volumes of information in photographs, music. So it's not enough to have in an MPT the song we like. We want to have all the records of our favorite singer. Those are the solutions offered by the market. The problems for the middle user, they are good. They are not very expensive, but there are some risks. And those risks can be classified as, do you remember Mega Upload? There are many links in internet that ping pong to Mega Upload pages. That it was closed by the FBI, considering that it had a great part of the unlicensed programs, films, illegal information. But what the FBI forgets is that Mega Upload had business information, fully legal information, that when they seized the Mega Upload servers, the company owners could no longer access the information that was stored there. And this is a risk. If tomorrow, if we keep our information in a cloud that we think is never going to be closed, who thinks that Google might disappear one day, or Amazon or iTunes? But we never know what may happen. We never know what the future can bring about. And one day what we thought it was secure, it might no longer be the case. So the idea is, if I can have my own infrastructure, I will try to create it myself. And this is one of the reasons. Not so long ago, Edward Snowden came into the public domain, and he made public some actions that NSA, the US government, was doing in relation to agreements with companies. I don't want to say the names, but important companies that offer hosting services, but accessing their information for research purposes, for terrorism. But it's true that he opened up our eyes to the fact that privacy is important. And on many occasions, depending on where we store our information, our privacy might be in danger. This is one of the reasons of setting our own cloud, and we can guarantee our infrastructure. That's why I speak about a perfect cloud, and we can access to it without. We can access all this data without problems. What are we looking for? Let us make a small summary of what we're looking for. We're looking for privacy. Something else, if you're using Google Drive or other systems to protect the user, they automatically analyze our files. And if those files have malware or a suspicious file, sometimes we cannot download them or upload them. And this is a problem. If we are analyzing malware and we need samples of these viruses, or we're working with certain files related to security audits in pen testing, those antivirus just classify them as virus and we cannot upload them. So at least in my personal experience, when I want to download some of the files in the cloud, the message is that it has a virus, it cannot be downloaded, and it just erase it. To avoid this, we might have our own cloud with our own rules. Now, we save money on a long term. We are paying for the cloud service between 9-10 euros a month. We will see the different choices, but we can pay just a little bit more or the same, but you are going to have an infrastructure that you can control yourselves, which is quite an advantage compared to what's on in the market. You might have total control of your data. You will know what's happening, who are accessing those data. If you're the admin of your own server, you will know who is accessing your data. If there are in a outsourced cloud, you don't know who might be accessing this information. In case of an event, and this is as a forensic, there might be an event in a company where employee X from home had downloaded the company's information, or that there's been outside attack. It doesn't have to be insider, and we want to know what vulnerability they used to attack. When we're speaking about an external server, we need a court order to be able to carry out this forensic research. If an incident happens with our cloud, we own the server, so we could just analyze all the server logs to see exactly who connected, at what time, from where, whether this person or group is still attacking the server with honey files, and we can control the situation. Otherwise, we just have a folder, we pay every month, but we don't know the rest. So with our own cloud, we can control our own information. Then your cloud's storage capacity is limited to your disk capacity. When you hire a plan, you can contract 100, 200, 300 gigabytes, 1 terabyte. But when you have your own cloud, you set the limit, whether you want to use it yourself or you want to share it with different users. The bigger the infrastructure, the greater the capacity. A few days ago, I was speaking about the potential infrastructure of a local council, and they were given 50 gigabytes per user. I will give you some other examples. Therefore, we can define and administer data storage capacity. We can use this as a backup. When you are working as systems administrators or at home, it's interesting to always keep a backup. And the question is to do it in the cloud or in a device. but the USBs are usually connected to the PC, so we may have malware attacks. Here we have the possibility to carry out the backups in the cloud. We can synchronize it to do it at night, and it doesn't use too much bandwidth. We can also recover previous versions of a document up until 30. If I modified or erase something from a document, I can go to the previous version and see the previous document before the changes, and my data are accessible from everywhere, whether in Santander or in Seville or in China, in any country. Just with internet access, I can see my data in the cloud. What are the potential solutions? At the level of free software, we have uncloud and netcloud. According to Shodan has limited information, but help us to see what's going on. Through a Shodan search this morning, I found 3,321 sites that are using uncloud. 3,321 in Germany, 718 in France, 561 in United States, 461 in the Netherlands, 17 in United Kingdom, several hundred. Those are data from Shodan. There are many more. There are hundreds of thousands of organizations that are using uncloud or netcloud. And how about Spain? And before this, just a small comment aside. Did you get to know DigitalOcean, the small drop? DigitalOcean is a place where you can rent a server. It was 5 years in the past, now 10 years. You can have a 30 gigabytes server, and you can set your cloud there with a fixed IP, with internet connection, good broadband. Then you have Deutsche Telekom, Orange, OVH is French, and OVH Telecom. Those are the organizations that Shodan indicates that we have cloud services. Let us now see what Shodan finds in Spain. On cloud is a previous version, and there are around 70 sites. You can see them by provinces: Madrid, Barcelona, Valencia, Zaragoza, Sevilla, only 2, not ours yet, with uncloud. And with netcloud, which is the one I will be focusing on, it finds 24: Rincón de la Victoria, Madrid, Úbeda, Vic, Valencia. And there's something else that I didn't highlight yet. And let's see if we see it here. Have you seen the protocols they're using? Of the 3,321 found, slightly over 50 are using HTTPS. The rest are using clear text. What do we mean that they're using HTTP? If I have my cloud in HTTP and I connect to the net and somebody is listening to this traffic, my connection to the cloud is in clean text, and any attacker can get our ID and get into our cloud. So we should really be aware about security. We can speak about 40-something% of unsafe clouds when we speak about cloud connection. Here we are. Examples of clouds. There are many organizations, for example, universities are using the cloud. This is the European University Don Miguel de Cervantes. Here you have the Polytechnic University of Valence. Telefónica, I don't know if this is a test or not, or a real one. Endesa also has its cloud system. And the last example, University of Extremadura, they give their users a storage capacity of 5 gigabytes. The private cloud is not anything that is only used by a few, but by companies and universities. It's a very useful solution to have your own cloud infrastructure, and this is the most interesting part of this section in my presentation. I spoke about on-cloud and next-cloud. What's the difference? On-cloud is a project from ECADE, the graphic Linux environment. It was started in 2010. On the 13th of December 2011, it was created. As I said, I knew about them since 2012. We tested to see how it was. Dropbox was very famous at that time, and it was as a cloud computing alternative using free software. What happened with Nextcloud, or with own cloud, that brings some of the parts that you have to pay for them. So it was like spin-off that is called Nextcloud. It has the same philosophy with the same interface, but they are 100% free. That's why for this workshop we are going to be using Nextcloud. They're basically the same, but I would choose free services. Let us choose the material for our cloud. We know about the cloud, we know about the information storage, and what are the materials to design or build our cloud. One of the possibilities for the cloud is to use Raspberry Pi. I don't know if you know about it, a device that has many different purposes, and one of them can be the following. This is a very basic and simple solution, 32 gigabytes cards with a cluster where you have 4 connections, and I multiply 32 per 4, or I can get memory cards of 64 gigabytes, and I can have use different strategies to build the cloud. This is a solution. How much does it cost? The Raspberry Pi, from 30 to 40 euros with a charger, 50 euros with a frame. That'll be the cost. And the memory cards, they cost very little. This is a way to set a cloud, a rather economical one, and is grand for a student that wants to try the cloud, can use their house internet connection. Nextcloud thought about it, and they sold a frame. As you can see, is the Raspberry Pi, but this frame has a space to introduce a hard disk of 3.5, or you can use some other storage capacities, about 1 terabyte, 2 or 3, or as many as you wish. This is a solution that is quite interesting. The only problem I see is that the frame cannot breathe. Everything is locked mechanically, so it generates heat, and I don't know how the Raspberry Pi will work inside this frame, but we can open it up.
Podemos irnos.
We can move to level 2 when we're talking about security issues, and we may think having my data stored in a hard drive is a bit risky. I need another system. So what you can do is connect several hard drives. Or maybe you need more space. Maybe you want a cloud of 6 terabytes. So this is what you can do. You can see how there are different post data storage units connected to the Raspberry Pi. This is one of the things you can do. These are different setups, different materials that you can do to create this cloud. If you don't like hard drives because more electrical current is required or because there are nodes here, well, you can use other storage units that have 128 gigabytes. You multiply this by 4, and the storage capability is significantly increased. That's a solution that you can go for. Here you have the package. If you buy the Nextcloud box, it contains its own Raspberry Pi. We're already at version 3. There you can see the connectors, the memory cards as well. It's just a matter of assembling all the elements. There are other options. This cloud system is extremely interesting, so much so that you have these options available. Here you can see the web interface of a NAS, N-A-S. And in this case, it offers you the option of setting up Nextcloud within the NAS. And NAS offer us an interface in which we can connect ourselves to the internet by opening a series of ports. This is all automatically managed by NAS, and they have RAI1, and we can manage them from this platform. This is yet another option. We don't want to use a Raspberry Pi, or maybe we don't believe it's so trustworthy, so to say, so we can go for NAS. What ingredients could we use in order to create the perfect cloud? Well, as I said earlier, an NAS, a Raspberry, a computer. It can be a computer, as we did earlier, and a server. I established a distinction between a computer and server. A computer, a normal computer, a clone computer, or brand computer can work with a normal processor with a 2 tera hard drive. We can transform this computer, typical PC computer, into Nextcloud. Or we can use a server, and if it's a company with redundant sources, with network cards, with wired system, we can do something that is more robust and more interesting when creating a secure hardware infrastructure. It depends on how much you're willing to invest, and it depends how much info data you want to manage. Unless, of course, these storage units or devices. As for software, what software are we going to use? We're going to use a Linux distro. If it's a Raspberry Pi, it would be a Linux system that is adapted to Raspberry Pi. If it's NAS or NAS, you can go for Nextcloud, or you can install a version in Linux from scratch. And Nextcloud is open source, free, 100% downloadable, and of course you need to do things with great care and dedication. And these are all the ingredients you need in order to set up the perfect cloud. Now let's see how we can do this step by step. Any doubts up until now? No? Good. So we had to set up a cloud, and we decided to build a cloud that is not going to use neither a Raspberry Pi nor a computer. I'll show you or describe the structure shortly. We wanted to create something robust and stable. I'll describe this now. We can use Nextcloud and install it in a computer with Linux, and I can also implement a firewall in Linux and protect it. Since our cloud is in the internet and it's exposed, we decided to protect it with PVSense, which is a firewall with a community license. meaning that it is free distribution firewall for domestic or household use. And we've basically gone for this technology. We've chosen Ubuntu. We could have chosen Debian or whatever distributor aside from Ubuntu and Debian. SUSE. You can choose the one you like most. And we've chosen Open VPN, which is Nextcloud. And for infrastructure, and we've decided to go for a free NAS version. You have the possibility of installing Nextcloud within FreeNAS, but we're going to use it for storage purposes solely, as I'll explain. Okay, this is my infrastructure. Previously, I have two computers, a firewall that can act as a router, also behind Nextcloud, and of course the internet. And on the other hand, I have all sorts of devices, tablets, smartphones, laptops, you name it, and I'll be able to access to this infrastructure from wherever I want. And there are two strategies that need to be underlined here. Nextcloud, as we will see, is exposed to the internet through an external IP. However, if we want to provide it with an additional security layer, I can set up an open VPN. And to this end, what I'm going to do is to connect myself through VPN to the cloud, to the PF Sense, and this is going to help me reach the next cloud through an internal network. So next cloud will have an external IP and apparently no connection to the internet. I'll only be able to access through the VPN, accessing an intranet, so to say. So as a result, Nextcloud cannot be seen by Shodan, cannot be exposed to internet searches in case of vulnerability. For example, boot searches that are looking for vulnerabilities. If I don't have the VPN key, that Nextcloud will be isolated and therefore protected from potential attackers. That's the action plan, okay? Before we begin, let me refer to some measures that you can implement to physically protect the machines. As we know, computers, when started up, they boot following a specific order. They can boot from a pen drive, a CD-ROM, or hard drive. How do we physically hack a computer? Well, booting it through a pen drive or a CD-ROM, we access the OS of that CD-ROM or pen drive. These are techniques that are used to restore Windows passwords when the user forgets them, to root, or when we access a partition, for example, from a pen drive. So the first thing we need to do is tell the BIOS to start up directly from the hard drive. Second, we need to protect the BIOS with a password. So we are forcing that attacker to disassemble the machine, remove the battery, etc. And something else that needs to be done is the Control Alt suppress. If someone has a physical access to that keyboard, someone with the Control Alt suppress could restart the system. So we need to disable this. I don't know if you heard about LVM, which is a virtual logical solution that allows me to encrypt the hard drive. LVM has a pro and a con. What's the pro? The fact that the hard drive is encrypted. So if someone wants to access my Linux, which contains all the info with the pen drive, he will or she will encounter a fully encrypted unit and won't be able to read it. If someone physically steals the computer and tries to open the disk, that disk is going to be encrypted. That's the advantage. Con. Well, when you start up the OS, I'm going to be asked for the password in order to continue. So we want to automate booting attacks. Of course, we will have to introduce the password. Let me try to do a demo of what I'm trying to explain. Good. Here I have my devices, my machines. This is the Ubuntu. You know that Ubuntu has two variables, server and desktop, and I go for server because it doesn't eat up RAM. So that's the option I go to with this software. And what I'm going to use is the Ubuntu server. Well, because I've been traveling all week, I didn't have the time to download the image from the server. How would this part of the VPN be? We can install this in Spanish, in English. I created an 8 GB disk. No, sorry, 2 gigabytes. It's asking me for more disk, no problem. We can add the hard disk. So we're going to add a 10 gigabyte disk, or even 20. What is important here is that we need to tell it that we need an LVM unit. If our device is stolen for whatever reason, we need to make sure that that info is encrypted. So we're going to wait a bit for Ubuntu to boot. If we're going to use Debian, we follow Debian instruction. If we use Ubuntu, we can use Ubuntu server. So here we are again. We're going to say yes. I'm going to say yes that I want to install it. Okay. This is the key part. You have the possibility of having the entire hard drive erased to partition it, or we can encrypt the Ubuntu installation for greater security, or to install LVM. I recommend this second option. There's an advantage. If in our partition or our extension, we need to remember that Nextcloud is a web installation, so it's we can have a unit, for example, of 1 tera devoted to this. If 1 tera is not enough, we can connect yet another hard drive and we can extend their partition. We can introduce another 2 terabyte hard drive, and I end up having 3 teras. So that's one of the advantages of LVM. We can use LVM with encryption or without encryption, as you wish. So once we have this, we go here directly to use the LVM of Ubuntu's installation, and we tell it to install it. We're not going to do the installation because it would take some time. It wouldn't make much sense to talk about Ubuntu installation, so I'm going to leave it here. Once we install Ubuntu, and that's what I wanted to explain, Once we install it, we're going to go for the interesting part. In this case, we have the Ubuntu installed, and I'm going to restart it for you to see. When the operating system is about to boot, what we see is that it runs normally, it executes normally. However, the disk is encrypted, so if I don't introduce the password, all data will be protected, and this is one of the advantages in terms of security. The longer the key, the longer the password, the better the disk can then be decrypted and decoded. You can access the hard drive. It, as you can see, uploaded immediately. Now I'm going to stop this and I'm going to return to previous screen. The virtual machine doesn't allow me to operate multiple screens. Let's move on with the presentation. Within the OS, once we install the operating system is a compilation. We download it, and once we install it, we do an APT update. We update all the modifications and of the pending updates. And then we install the LSCH, and we have a console to be able to interact with that device. If your hard drive is encrypted, this isn't an option. If it's not encrypted and it's not going to ask for a password, you can introduce a task in Chrome so that the OS can be updated every X time to make sure that it's duly updated. Let's be very careful when deciding this, because there can be an update that is not good for our Nextcloud version. So let's be careful when going for this option, okay? Let's move on. The Nextcloud installation has no difficulty. You install a PHP. I recommend Apache. You install a database, MariaDB. We download the last Nextcloud version, and version 12 gave me some problems, so I downloaded and installed version 11 for this workshop. It's stable. You need to have an updated version regardless of the number. Then enable the HTTP in the web server. Don't make the mistake made by so many people. You need to have your HTTP active in the web server, and then you need to create a certificate. I had introduced a mini demo, but I'm not going to run through it. I'm going to share this document with you. You can do this at home. And I've brought my Nextcloud cheat slip. And this is a gem. How does it work? I can connect myself. I select client PuTTY, and I start executing the commands, 12 steps. And with these 12 steps, I can update Nextcloud. You install Apache, you install Apache libraries to connect it with PHP. In this case, version 7, we install MyCrib, Imagine, all these requirements that the Nextcloud libraries need in order to be able to view content. Then I install. The software. I update it. I install the database. Here it is. And then I use security installation that basically asks us a set of questions so that we can harden the database. For example, that the database only accept connections from X to Y for a specific range, and we don't need to listen everybody through port 363 and be on the lookout for brute force attacks. There you can see that the database MariaDB is duly installed. Then we can see secure installation, and we can enhance the security level of the database. I install Nextcloud version 11. There's version 12 available, but we went for version 11. Then we decompress, we unzip, and then we add a virtual host to the Apache. And with that, we enter the IP of our server or the domain name slash Nextcloud, and automatically we receive the installation panel. In this case, we need to enter our username, updated the name of the database, and in step 8, as you can see, the database is created. In this case, the database is called Nextcloud DB. The user is Nextcloud/user, and you can enter whatever password you wish. So with Command 8, we can create the database. When you access, you will provide those details, and you'll be able to use Nextcloud with no problem whatsoever. Let's move on. This is the magic cheat sheet that I mentioned, and I'll share it with you in some minutes. Okay, we're going to create the cloud. We still haven't seen the cloud, right? The cloud I've been talking about for an hour already. Let's take a look at the cloud. Here it is. So you can use your tablets to connect to the cloud. You can access it. This is the cloud we prepared. Here you can see the interface. I'm going to log through DC admin. That will be my username. I'll provide you with a username so that you can do this yourself. So let's wait a second. Maybe it was open and the session has expired. Okay, here you can see the interface of this cloud. I'd like to explain to you what you're going to find in this interface. First, let's begin with the options available to the user. If we go to personal here, you'll have the option of introducing your name, email address. Our email will send us info, and we can ask the cloud to send us info on the activity in our account. If someone accesses with our account, the cloud will send us a summary of the activity of that account, and we will know what is happening with our data. We can set it with a profile. We can even upload a photo. That's Cadmin's logo for this year. We can define groups. In this case, the US admin user has the authorization to administer. We can change the password. We can select a language. Say, for example, in a company, we have people that feel more comfortable speaking German and Italian or whatever in English. We can, for those specific users, select a specific language for the interface. And what's most interesting here are, of course, the customers. Of course, we have access to a web interface, and here we have clients for Windows, for Linux, for Android, and for iOS. That's the most interesting thing. From a mobile device, I can interact with the data I have in the cloud. As you can see, I obtain info on sessions. I can enter passwords for apps. I can download one of the customers and say, you will only be able to access this device with this password, and if it's another device, access cannot be gained. Here you can see the backlog of activities. The user has created a new folder. We can tell the system to report on activities, to send us an email whenever a folder has been shared, a file has been shared from another server. We can specify what events we want to be informed on via email, and also the frequency with which we want to receive these emails. For example, send every hour or on a weekly basis. If we don't want our cloud to become a spammer that bombards us with emails, we can tell the system to send us emails on a weekly basis. We have a part of music where we can define a folder for music in order to enable the well, music. And then we have the so-called federated cloud. This is also interesting because everybody has his own cloud these days, so we can interact with other clouds, with other next clouds. These are trust-based relationships that allow us to access other clouds. This is what we understand by federated cloud. And as a hardening, we've also enabled two-factor authentication option. For this user, it's not enabled. I have it for another one that I'll show you soon. And we can do a two-digit authentication. And this provides even greater security to our cloud. So here you have the options the user could have. So that's what I wanted to say regarding the user's settings. And now I'm going to move on. Personal details, sessions, I've already covered this. Let's move on to files, okay? Here we will have all the files of that particular user. In this case, he has a folder with pictures, some sample pictures. And we will be able to view these pictures on a real-time basis. Everything can be viewed in the form of a gallery of images or as a list. And that's what I want to say regarding photographs. We can also have working folders, document folders, videos as well. We can read tests in PDF format without having to download them. We hit the PDF and we're able to view the content of the PDF. I don't know if I'm using VPN or not. Yes, apparently the transfer is via VPN. I'm connecting myself to Seville, and this is a form of secure connection. And here you can see a PDF file on a real-time basis. You can read it on your own device or devices. When the user connects, there is a handbook that explains how Nextcloud is used. What else can I say? What else can I show you? This regarding files. Now let's move on. Well, as for files, what's the most interesting part of files? Here we have many different options. So first, let's take a look at the pictures of the photographs. We can view the details. There's an interesting app for forensic computing purposes, which is the ability to view metadata. I'm going to select or click on metadata, and I can view the metadata for that specific picture, date of creation, all the data pertaining to this specific picture.
Bueno,
The owner, etc.
fotografía.
This document or this picture, I can share it, I can label it, speaking about the date, whether it's holidays, and I can add comments. And what is more interesting, in addition to have my own cloud, is the fact of being able to share it. I would share it here. I can share by users or groups, or I can create a link. If I share this photograph with a link, anyone that can see the link can see the photograph, but it can also be protected with a password. And this adds a higher level of privacy. And we also include a maturity date. When we see the files, we can see our favorites, those that have been shared. Those files that I have shared with other users, and the possibility to share with other users. We can see our account's activity, what we've done, what did I do, what did others do, what are my favorite files, shared files, comments. And in a single, in an institution as a university or a company, we can collaborate with our files. This is the gallery. Now, contacts. Contacts is empty here. There are programs to synchronize with iOS devices, but there are also external programs that allow contacts synchronization with Outlook. I can import all my Outlook contacts to the cloud, or I can add them manually. Here I can define, or we can play. If I have an audio, I can add notes that are in the cloud or add more applications. And here there's a whole new world. Each user can define the type of applications that want to activate in their cloud. Look at all the possibilities: authentication and authorization, personalization, game integration, monitoring, office, text. It'll be impossible to see them all. If you connect now, you can see your preferred choice for your clouds: video player, online collaboration services, to view metadata. Some are activated by default, although you can activate or deactivate them according to your interest. There are also dual authentication. There are not many games in this case, but this is the most interesting part: the applications. Once we have our cloud, as I said before, we need a certificate. Today, browsers sanction us and make compulsory to have a certification in our websites, whether personal or corporate. There are certificates of all prices: 300, 350 euros, those that just have the name of the company's name in green and then the domain name. And there are also some more economical, from 30 to 40 euros. But Let's Encrypt is free. We don't have to pay for the certificate. That's the benefit, that is for free. But as a drawback, this certificate terminates every 3 months. But just with a small script, there is an update every 2 months or every 3 months, and we forget about the security certificate. Now, in our cloud, we're using a Let's Encrypt certificate. This is just a small demo. I'm sorry if you cannot see it very well. This is information about how to create security certificates. Now we're just updating. Then we install the software that will bring about the certificate. We add the Sherwood repository that will generate the certificate. It's going to be an RSA key. So we see the update in the repository, and then I install Python, Sherwood, Apache. Those videos are in the net, in the cloud. You will now see just thousands of characters moving. It installs all Python's libraries, and once I do this, I clear the screen, and I launch the Let's Encrypt certificate. I use an eBay message to speak about the certificate maturity, the type of certificate using HTTPS. I will say that I will install it with Apache. You can see it in the cloud yourselves, and then the certificate will be generated or created. Here the domain is ntorre.es. Then I go on answering about the available sites, and I give instructions about the route in the virtual place that I've defined. Here you see the certificate, and I see that the certificate I've just downloaded, it will be in this route, and I indicate the Apache to locate it in a specific place. I just reboot to see if everything has worked. So it's quite easy to create the HTTPS certificate. Only takes 3 minutes to create a certificate, and we can avoid many problems. If you are at a hotel or restaurant with a public Wi-Fi, and if you do not use HTTPS, you will be sharing your password with all those that are at that time spying your website. So here we're adding to Chrome the updating period every 2 or 3 months for an automatic renewal of certificates. And as I said, I will share this with you so that you can check it later. And I've got the checklist with all the necessary steps. We already have the certificate. What is the quality of this HTTPS D certificate? This certificate is A plus level. That means it's a good quality, a very good quality certificate. All browsers will acknowledge it. We're not going to have the HTTPS with a red cross. And as I say, you can check the quality of your certificate. Certificates of 25 euros are really basic. If we want a more professional one, we might have to pay more every year. In this way, you can have a very good quality certificate that is automatically renewed every 2 or 3 months. We have our cloud with HTTPS, and it's now the time to use it. If you have cell phones, smartphones, we can get in Cibe Soluciones en Cloud.es, and here you have the user and the password. And because you're several here in the room, I've created user 1, user 2, and each of you can access to those users. You can change the password and just use it. If I go to user management, you will see how easy it is. Here there's a list of all the users. I've created user 1, user 2. Password for user 1 is user.1. User number 2 is user.2. User.3, and so on and so forth. I've created an INCIBE group also, so that we can play with group possibilities. I define the group in CIBE in this case with user 7, the password usuario.7. It takes just a little second. So the person that logs in with user 7 just type in CIBE Soluciones en Cloud.es, They can just log in. User 7 in this case. And you didn't tell me that there was a missing A here. And then we can log in. We log in and we can automatically access to our cloud. When we access for the first time, there will be a helper that offers to install the client. This was not the case this time, but this is the folder by default. What is the storage capacity for user 1 or for user 7? Is given by the admin. By default, admin creates unlimited ones, but it might want to limit it. I will give my users 15 gigabytes. 15 GB. This is what you have to type. And I can administer the space. You can create organizational units. This is language, Windows terminology. We can create group works by projects, by topics, and all documents can be shared among the group work. Instead of sharing with a specific person, you can share with the whole group. Let us do just a small practical example. I am SecAdmin user. I'm going to my files directory. In files, I will go to documents, and then I will upload certain files. I'll go to my desktop, and I have the checklist of the script, and I automatically upload them to the cloud, and now I'm going to share them. So I say I want to share. I want to share with a group. Okay. I share within Fiverr's group. But if I want to share it through a link, I can generate the link. Otherwise, I share it with an internal group. If this person or group is in the cloud, the only thing I have to do is to type the name of the person. If it's outside the cloud, I send a link with or without a password, so I can share all of this information. This about documents. Let us try now. Have you ever been possible? Oh, sorry. If with user number 7 didn't work, use user 1 and the password is usuario.1, user.2, user.3.
Sí. Nos han compartido. Vale.
So we seem to have a problem here. Let us do it again.
Puede ser y no le haya dado, ¿no? A ver dónde está.
Let us go back and check.
Aquí está, en CIBE, ¿no?
In CIBE, that's the name of the group.
Aquí, y yo no lo he cogido, ¿vale? Ahí. Ahora sí.
Here, now it's working. Okay. And now I know whether I can edit it or not. If I can share it again or whatever.
Esto es por un lado. Ahora os compartiré.
Now I will share the videos with you. This is going to be up and running for the whole weekend. Be aware of what you upload to the cloud. but you're very welcome to use it.
Bueno, ejercicio.
Now, this is just a small exercise. If you're now logged into the cloud, just take a picture or look from your gallery and just upload to the cloud and you share it. So we see the response times, how long does it take to upload a file, and how easy it is to share it with this system. There are two ways to share it, through the website, or you can download the client. There's a client for Android that can be downloaded from Google Play. If you have an iOS, you can install it in the iOS repositories and you can check it yourselves.
Unos segunditos.
I will let you now a few seconds to do so.
¿Sí? ¿Cómo que da error al subir o da error?
What is the error when logging in? Okay, I will check it with you.
Sí. Ah, vale, es usuario 1. Usuario 1, usuario punto 1. Bien. ¿Qué pasa?
What happens? How does the client work in Windows? Let us have a look.
Mientras vosotros subís,
While you upload a photograph, I'm going to change into another session to see the client. Let us go to this device now. Let us install the client for Windows to see all functionalities. Here we have the execute. Once we connect to the net, we execute it. We say yes. The next one, to install the direct access through a shortcut. It starts the installing process and execute it. As I said before, we see the link. The execute is taking some more time. I'm going to close the previous session. I will log in again. The first information requested is to introduce the URL. If it's the first time, you should add https incibe.es, and then it would request user and ID. User ID and password. The program would be here. Here we have it. Let us see the settings. Important things. We will go through proxy or through an open network. Usually we're going to do it without proxy. And something important, the bandwidth. We can say how much is going to use for the upload and for the download. We don't want to limit it, but for the upload, if it's not with a symmetric network, we can say for uploading, limit it to a megabyte, for example, per second. Or we can leave it open. It depends on your network. What about the settings? General settings. You can execute the client when you log into the system. For synchronizing, you can decide on what files to be ignored, for example, Linux OS, or some photographic files or films, and maybe those large files, I want them to be ignored, not to use so much bandwidth. When you install the client, they will ask about the folder you want to synchronize. This is key. If it's a folder there is documents inside the user, this folder has data. Do you want me to erase it or to synchronize it? And you can choose to synchronize them so everything is uploaded. And I know, as in Dropbox, that I will have a folder where there will be an ongoing synchronization of everything I add into this folder. And this is the interesting part. If you're going to use it for light text documents, this is almost instant. For bandwidth reasons, I had stopped it. It was in pause, but I can press continue. The translation is not very good. Is to continue synchronization, and it will start the synchronizing period with my computer. Remember that those files in my NetCloud, I can see the previous version of all my files. Here is a historic of what I had been doing during the last 11 hours. Here I have the activity log of my user. And here we have the folder. I've created in the folder another folder. The name is the cloud, that is synchronizing everything I have in my user folder. I cannot find it now. We will do it now. Unit C, users, and in theory it had to be here in my documents, but here, as in Dropbox, we have the sync icon, and I see that all the documents I have in the cloud are synchronized with my computer. I know that this is useful as a backup, and I can automatically upload it to the cloud. What is in green is in synchronization process, and the rest will be synchronized later. The cloud is now up and working. It has a security HTTPS. Is quite an interesting cloud. Then it depends on the bandwidth. My connection is using a UPN, so it's not only using this network. This channel is encapsulated up to my office and then to the URL. That's why the times are a little bit slower.
Bueno, pues estábamos aquí.
Here we are, and now we are going to fill our cloud. We can use a hard disk. We can connect it, for those that have Google Drive, through an API. We can connect it to Google Drive, and we can synchronize it. And what is also very interesting is to activate in applications the external storage support that allows me to connect to other devices that I might have at home. And here you see the different protocols. You can fill your cloud, connecting it to Dropbox, to another net or uncloud, to a web app, to a Samba or Zib. So if I have a free NAS, there is a Linux system that allows us to reuse old devices where we can use this computer as a NAS. With software, I can share or access all those hard drives and storage capacity using those protocols. Obviously, it's going to be slower. It's not the same. It is connected to this that when you go through FTTP protocol or cable using different connections, you can always improve it through a gigabyte network or through fiber. External storage will allow to give more space to our cloud, and we can also enlarge our cloud using another net cloud. The cloud can be scalable, and in this slide I speak about adding external storage capacity. If we go back to our cloud now, and I will teach you now the following. Let's see if you can help me. We go to applications. It's not active now. You can see it here, external storage support. I activated. And now we activate it for all users. Once it's activated, if I go to a user, to this user, for example, and we now go to our personal folder. Let's see if I can see it now, which is not the case right now.
Un segundo. Vale, tendría que ir del lado del usuario.
Okay, here we have the user. It's in the personal area, external storage. I don't know why it isn't working. Well, apparently it is enabled. Otherwise, I can exit and log in again as a user.
Pero vamos, lo único que tiene.
So I would see the external storage part. Here it is. Sorry. My mistake. I would have to set up the external storage. So I should go to personal settings. Can't find it. Can't find it. I would have to do this before at the user area. Here we have the user. Let me see if I can find it. Otherwise, I should exit and enter again. So, I could tell the program with what device I wish to connect. FTTP, a drive, an Amazon device. External storage. I don't know why. I can't see how I can set this up, and I don't want to take too much of your time with this. External storage again. Well, here it is. And under storage, I can select or choose the type of storage. For example, FTPP, another Nextcloud at a local level. And once this is defined, 2 users could view this. Sorry for that. I couldn't find my way around. In admin, I can choose the type of storage in order to be able to expand or increase rather the size of the cloud. You can choose whatever system you wish. For example, FSTP is yet another option among which you can choose. OpenStack, Objects, Amazon. Here are several options available. Another interesting thing that I like to highlight is that when you do the hardening of the cloud, you have the possibility of doing a 2-digit authentication. If you wish to enable this, you need to download an app, TOTP. In Android, it's called Free TOTP. So this means that as administrators, and this is very easy to do, as administrators, you should access the applications area. I can also, well, actually a user can also enable this now that I think about it. And you go to security. In this case, it's already installed 2-digit authentication. In this case, we decided to choose a TOTP system. So once we have it, we go to the user. This specific user, here he is. If you go to the personal area, you scroll down, and in the lower part, you will see the option Enable TOTP for 2-digit authentication. So a QR code is automatically generated, and with our mobile phones, we would have to download the application. Here it is. And once we install it and download it in our mobile phones, we scan with our mobile phone the QR code generated by the user. Here it is. This QR code is synchronized. I'll show you my mobile. I'll activate the camera so that you see how this 2-factor authentication works. And it's always interesting to generate back up codes in case, for example, there is dysynchronization, or in case we don't have the mobile, there are some fixed codes that can enable us to gain access to the platform. These codes need to be copied and stored, just in case. How does this 2-factor authentication work? Let's take a look at an example. I'm going to select another user, Adrian. I enter the password. I start new session, and now I'm asked to introduce an authentication code. This code, let me activate the camera, uncover it rather. I answer no, and I'm going to show you how this is done. I hope nobody calls me nor messages me at this moment. And here you can see this icon, and this is going to automatically generate. I know that you're seeing this as a mirror, but this will generate a code as soon as I click on the link. And a code, as you can see, is created. Can you see it now? And this code will last very little. So I have this time to enter the code S, and I can access directly. So if someone steals my password, that person will need to introduce the second authentication in order to access my data. What's interesting? Well, I'm going to remind you how videos are shared. I press share, select the group, cyber group, and I share the videos of this presentation. I say whether I define whether the videos can be downloaded, edited, or only viewed, etc. And here I also have music. Now with VPN, I'll take a bit longer. The files can be viewed on a real-time basis, but for music you need to download it, and once downloaded, you can start reproducing it. We're doing this through the VPN, and that's why the download times are slower. I don't know if it's playing or not. Apparently the volume is very low. It takes very little time to reproduce music, okay? Apparently the music isn't being played. Should be. And take some seconds. And this would allow you to listen to all the music in your music repository. Let's move on. Here you have an example. This free OTP is a double or two-factor authentication for many applications, not only our cloud, Evernote, Google, Facebook. You can use it for other things. It's pretty easy to use and pretty intuitive or user-friendly. Remember to generate emergency keys that are fixed keys or passwords. Tips for you. It's always important to place a firewall in front of the cloud. We decided to go for a P sensor in order to protect the cloud infrastructure. If we don't have a firewall, you need to remember that we're using Linux, so we can use the IP tablets and Linux. We need to deny everything and only open the necessary ports. Another option, ports for filtering. When we install SSH and we connect, we can either change the port, and aside from changing the port, we can say I will only accept requests from this IP, which is the only IP I can use to interact with the server. You need to understand that by default it's in HTTP, but I will have the possibility of generating HTTPS by generating a certificate. We've seen an example of how we can generate a certificate that can be seen in green, and I need a 443 port open for HTTPS. The user can view at all times what is being done with his account, latest events in his account, data, two-step security has to be enabled, and it's important to have a backup of a cloud. And once we've implemented these measures, this cloud could fly, so to say. But for it to fly in a safe and secure manner, we would have to add yet another layer. what I call a VPN varnish. And let me explain to you how I do this. In this case, I have a more industrial virtualization system. So, in this case, I have a server with virtual machines, 6 virtual machines for different uses or purposes, and one is Nextcloud. This Nextcloud is using an external IP, which is the one you enter, intive.soluciones. And the scheme for VPN that I would set up would be as follows. Here you can see that the machine is a firewall. It's a pfSense. And I have Windows 7 to manage pfSense. And this is a Linux machine with 2 network interfaces. It's free LSD. And what it does with 2 network interfaces to have an external port opened and an external IP, and all traffic generated is transformed into an internal IP. So Windows 7 that I have here has an internal IP that you will see here. 2 network interfaces, 1 internal IP, which is where you connect to Windows 7. How would I set up this infrastructure? I will set up a firewall with an external and an internal IP, and the Nextcloud would be assembled or set with an interface connected to an internal IP, to an intranet, that is. So, by doing this, I'm ensuring that when I set up a VPN, that VPN is secure, and therefore that Nextcloud is not exposed to defacement, brute force attacks. And for the sake of time, I've brought you some videos that explain how we set the VPN. To do this VPN, I would use OpenVPN, which is a free software, and it's being done on pfSense. So you can install this also in Linux, even in the same Nextcloud. What we do is create a VPN certificate. We specify our company, indicate country, province, etc. We enter all this info. I'm going to enter Sevilla here, which is where I come from, and I fill this with the data from our company, an email address of whatever company. I specify the company and generate a certificate. And once we have the certificate, I can add the user I wish, and that's how it's created in pfSense. In this case, VPN user, the password. I can create several users with a certificate, and each user can access her own certificate. And what the VPN does for an external network is create a tunnel, a safe tunnel towards an intranet. and to manage this as if we were in the internet. Once we create that user, what we can do directly we go to an assistant, or wizard rather. We generate a certificate for that specific user. There you have the description part. We create a certificate, and once created, the default port is 1194. I can change it or leave it as it stands. We will have the internal IP. And we can decide whether we want all connection traffic goes through the internet. When we introduce the internal IP, it could access our server, but the rest of the internet would be using the internet we're using. And once we create this certificate, we need to create this this client or customer, which is the video I'd like to show you now. And now we need to create a wizard. We have created the rule and the firewall. We are in 1194. We need to accept VPN connections. And what we do now, I think I skipped a video. What we do is the following. What we do is install within pfSense a wizard to create a client, i.e. the VPN customer generator. The idea is that the customer can obtain the certificate. Here it's installing customer export that gives me the password of the key, the predefined key, so that the user can log in, introduce the password created, and thus access or connect. Take some time. It's already been created. I go to VPN, client export, and I'll be able to export to all these platforms for Android, for iOS, for Windows. And once we export this customer, and I'm not going to have time to show you the video, the customer will be able to access. The customer will become a resident. You have the VPN open, as you can see, and it's very easy. I can decide whether I connect or not. You can install this in Android devices as well. It's pretty useful. So if you're going to access your website, you can use your internet connection, but all your traffic is encrypted. And you're going to connect with an internal IP to that private net cloud at a, slower speed, a bit slower than normal, but very, very safely and securely. And as a result, you will have safe documents. The next cloud is inaccessible from the outside, and this is why this cloud is secure, and we can have all our data protected there. Who can access our data? Us. And with the measures we've implemented, we're going to ensure that the information will be very, very safe, regardless of whether we have backup copies or not. I'm going to move on to the conclusions now. As you have seen, Well, there you have the prices. iPhone, iCloud, sorry, prices. $9.91 per month. For drives, we have 8 euros. Mega has those prices that you can see there. For 2 terabytes, 20 euros per month. This is what we find in the market. But we are paying for some space. But in terms of security and privacy, nobody can guarantee that data are secure in the cloud. That's why it is our ability to control all the information on a real-time basis. If I access my cloud, I can see and view the server area. This. I can view this. If I go to admin, here I have server info. I can see the CPU load of the device, the memory use. At this moment in time, it's Linux, and if I access through a console, I can access all the log area. Number of active users, number of shared resources, storage, PHP version, database, size of the database at this time. I can even connect this to external monitoring tools. What else? This is what I mentioned earlier regarding encryption to enable HTTPS and the encryption of files. I can generate a report on the use of the cloud. And of course, each user will have a report that can be sent on a weekly basis, a monthly basis. And that this is the perfect cloud. I don't know if you have any questions. Microphone, please, otherwise I'm afraid we can't interpret. You can install this. We've created a more robust platform, an independent platform, because we have other machines. But OpenVPN can be installed. You can integrate everything in that Nextcloud machine. You can integrate the firewall in Nextcloud and OpenVPN. It works exactly the same, and everything can be done under the umbrella of one machine. Regarding apps, what kind of applications can you find? For example, you can connect this to FreeOffice. It isn't implemented here. You need to have FreeOffice as a service to be able to open a Word file or Google Docs. Same with LibreOffice with FreeOffice. As for apps, let me take a look. Yeah, apps are classified into different categories. Depends on what you want. You can have monitoring apps if you're interested in security, activities conducted by system administrator, office related issues, calendar options, for example, online collaboration, contacts here have been enabled, email function to create templates, possibility of editing documents online, small app for projects with dates. If you go to further description, more description, you can see all the options available. This is wonderful for collaborative projects. You can add tasks as required. These are some interesting apps for the office. Note, only Office is the application that allows you to edit a file, a free Office file online, meaning that you don't have to download it. You can do this online. And it also allows you to read ebooks. If you have ebooks and want to have them online, you can connect yourself and read them. There's also a task function at an organization or company level, also contacts, bookmarks. What else? There's a tool for drawing, another one for note taking. There are developers, because this is a very big community after all. And some developers do this, and this can be integrated. For example, Cibra allows me to connect my machine to other applications. Then we have security aspects, two-factor authentication, social issues and communication. Another interesting thing that you don't have an own cloud, which is the fact that you can do a video call to another user with Nextcloud. You also have GPX POP for geolocation purposes. Everything you can fathom. And if you scratch under the surface, you'll see that there's a community. It's an open forum, help.nextcloud.com, where developers publish all the tools for Nextcloud. Special acknowledgments to Jose Caming, whom I represent, Dolmund people, for time issues that haven't been able to show their videos, and thank you to Inthive for the invite. Any further questions or queries? Yes, apparently one. Using the mic, please, so that we can interpret. For example, let me tell you something about that. If you go to Shoda, for example, there's this part called exploit. If we use Shoda, if I introduce an own cloud the vulnerabilities, I can see the vulnerabilities of the latest version. You can look for this directly in preferences, okay? What do we recommend in these cases? Well, first, to be subscribed to a forum, because when there are new vulnerabilities published, the forum will distribute that info amongst users. In the field of security, in a company or at a personal basis, whenever we install an open source software tool, we need to be subscribed to that tool. It's the only way of finding out. We can't be on the lookout for that info. We can't pretend to be reading the blogs and the forum. No. So the best way is to be subscribed. And whenever, for example, you use Moodle alerts are often received via email if you are subscribed. So make sure you register to the forum, so whenever a new vulnerability is detected, we are duly notified. Otherwise, it would be a bit difficult, because you would have to be surfing for security news. And Thief is wonderful. You can receive info if you register to Thieves newsletter or news bulletin, and you will be notified on these vulnerabilities. In companies, there should be someone that centralizes all these communications, so that that person is informed on vulnerabilities. Linux for security updates. It would be interesting to do an update the machine once a month. As for apps, I recommend that you register or subscribe to the app. That's the best way of learning about new vulnerabilities. If there are no further questions, I'd like to thank you. Thank you very much for your attention.